The night was quiet when it began. We were sitting at the dining table, surrounded by wedding invitations. My sister's big day was only weeks away. Noah scrolled through his phone while I compared paper textures. I asked which design he liked. He didn't look up. His voice was calm, casual, like he was ordering coffee. I invited Eva. She should be there. For a moment, the world froze. Eva. The name fell like a knife made of glass. His ex. The woman who built his company's first campaign and left before he married me. He said it like it meant nothing. A business decision. A polite gesture. My hand rested on the invitation. I smiled. It was the kind of smile that hides storms. Of course, I said softly. He thought I agreed. He thought silence meant surrender. He was wrong. That night I couldn't sleep. His words replayed in my mind like static. Every memory of her name returned. Every message she sent that he called professional. Every dinner where her ideas appeared in his speeches. He once said she was brilliant. I thought it was admiration. Now I knew it was addiction. He needed her praise to feel powerful. And he thought I didn't see it. I saw everything. His tone when he said her name. The slight tilt of pride. The hidden ownership. To him, I was the image. To her, he gave the strategy. I turned on my laptop. Opened old folders. Emails. Financial drafts. Internal memos. I searched for her name. It appeared too often. Attached to confidential projects. Private exchanges about brand positioning and funding allocations. I saved them all. Every file. Every message. I wasn't angry. Anger was noisy. I preferred silence. Silence could build walls. Silence could plan. At 2 a.m., I poured a glass of wine. The reflection in the window didn't look like a victim. It looked like a strategist. I started a new document. A plan. Phase 1. Observe. Phase 2. Collect. Phase 3. Expose. Noah once told me that data is power. He taught me that lesson well. By dawn, I had enough to see the cracks. A project called Helix. Hidden budgets. Transfers through a shell corporation. He was stealing from his own board. Using Eva as the public face of legitimacy. It was elegant. It was cruel. And it would destroy him. I stared at the list of files glowing on my screen. Each one was a seed. Each one could bloom into ruin. I closed my laptop. The house was still. Noah was sleeping upstairs, dreaming of control. He believed I was loyal. He believed I would forgive. He believed too much. By the time the sun rose, I already knew what had to be done. He had given me the stage. I would give him the performance of his life. Morning came with the smell of jasmine and control. Noah left early for meetings, still confident in his illusion. I watched his car disappear through the glass gates. The silence that followed felt like oxygen. I opened my laptop again. The files waited like sleeping animals. Names, numbers, timelines, all pointing to deceit. He called it innovation. I called it embezzlement wrapped in charm. I poured coffee and started categorizing. Emails with Eva. Private memos about Helix. Budgets that didn't match company reports. Each piece was a thread leading to the same truth. He was building a separate empire under his own company's shadow. He thought no one could trace it. He thought I wouldn't dare. I smiled as I organized everything by date. Patterns emerged. Transfers aligned with her consulting payments. Her firm received bonuses that didn't exist on public ledgers. It was brilliant in its arrogance. But arrogance leaves fingerprints. I spent hours documenting, nomming each file with precision. No emotion, only structure. By noon, I had created a folder called Weather. Because storms need names. Inside were his lies, categorized and waiting. I encrypted the folder with a password only I could recall. Then I called my assistant. Her voice was cheerful, unaware. I asked her to pull the press list for my sister's wedding. She didn't question why. I never explained myself. Power doesn't explain. After the call, I walked through the house. Every object shimmered with pretense. The marble, the art, the glass walls. Everything was designed for admiration, not comfort. He loved appearances more than intimacy. That was his true addiction. People saw us as perfect. They didn't know perfection is curated. And I was about to rewrite the exhibit. That evening, he returned home smiling. He told me the investors were excited. He kissed my cheek like a PR gesture. I asked about Eva. He said she might consult on the wedding for optics. I nodded, pretending to be impressed. Of course, I said, she's good at appearances. He didn't notice the irony. He poured wine and talked about business as if we were partners. I played along. He loved the illusion of collaboration. He didn't see the data behind my calm. While he spoke, I watched the way his lips curved around power. Every word was an advertisement for himself. I memorized the rhythm, the tone, the arrogance. It would sound perfect in a recording one day. After dinner, I excused myself and returned to my office. I sent a single email to my attorney with no context. Subject line, for safekeeping. Attachment, weather zip. It was my insurance, my quiet declaration of war. When I shut down the screen, the reflection in the dark glass stared back. I didn't see the woman he underestimated. I saw the architect of his downfall. And the blueprint was already complete. The wedding planning became my battlefield. Every detail was a weapon hidden in plain sight. My sister thought I was helping. Noah thought I was distracted. Both were wrong. Silverwood Estate was chosen for its beauty. I chose it for its surveillance coverage. Multiple camera angles. Mirrored walls. Perfect light for exposure. I spent mornings at the venue under the guise of coordination. In truth, I was mapping vantage points. Where the guests would sit. Where the cameras would turn. Where his downfall would begin. The guest list came next. Names, titles, affiliations. Every person mattered. Investors, executives, press contacts. All invited under the banner of celebration. I designed the seating chart with surgical intent. Eva's name sat alone at a small table near the board members. Close enough to be noticed. Far enough to be isolated. Noah's seat was across from her, with an open line of sight. Optics, he would say. Exposure, I would think. He believed I was supporting his vision. I was building the stage for his confession. He suggested hiring Eva's firm to manage the event's media. I agreed instantly. He smiled, relieved by my compliance. He never questioned a calm woman. That was always his mistake. The contracts were signed. Her arrival confirmed. Everything was moving according to schedule. I met with the videography team next. A group of young professionals eager to impress. I asked them to set a camera by the terrace doors. Candid moments, I said lightly. They didn't know it would capture more than laughter. In the evenings, I rehearsed my performance. The smile. The posture. The perfect wife's composure. Every movement calculated to disarm suspicion. He called me graceful. I called it preparation. One night, he entered my office unannounced. He found me studying the seating plan. He leaned on the doorframe, casual and certain. You're incredible, he said. Always in control. I smiled, keeping my eyes on the screen. Someone has to be. He laughed, kissed my forehead, and left. He didn't notice the guest list on my monitor. Highlighted in red were his board members. Highlighted in gold, Eva. Highlighted in white, him. It looked like an art piece. It was actually a map of destruction. When he was gone, I opened my private notes. Under the header Event Strategy, I added the final line. Objective: create undeniable proof of collaboration and deceit. The house was silent when I finished. Outside, the vineyard lights shimmered like stars. Each one looked like a secret waiting to be revealed. I closed my laptop and exhaled slowly. The game was set. The pieces were moving. And Noah Carter was walking willingly into the trap he helped build. All I had to do was let the night arrive. The night of the wedding arrived, wrapped in gold. The lights shimmered like promises waiting to break. 300 guests filled the ballroom with laughter. Champagne sparkled, cameras flashed, music swelled. I moved through the crowd like a ghost in silk. Noah stood beside me, confident, untouchable. He believed the night belonged to him. He believed wrong. Then she appeared. Eva, radiant and deliberate, wearing a gown of molten gold. Every head turned as she entered. Every eye followed her. She smiled like victory. Noah's face lit up with that familiar pride. The same pride he wore when he thought he'd won. He introduced us with rehearsed charm. Lana, you remember Eva, don't you? I lifted my glass. Of course, I said, smiling softly. She's unforgettable. Laughter rippled through the table. Only Eva heard the blade hidden in my tone. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp and cold. You've outdone yourself, Lana, she whispered. So elegant. I met her eyes. So transparent, I replied. Noah didn't catch it. He never listened for what wasn't said. Dinner began. Toasts echoed through the room. I waited. The watch on his wrist gleamed under the chandeliers. It was beautiful, sleek, precise. Inside it, a truth waiting to record. He thought it was a gift. It was a key. When the music softened, he leaned toward me. I need to discuss media plans with Eva for Monday, he said. I smiled as if flattered by his responsibility. Of course, darling, don't be long. They slipped away through the terrace doors. The camera by the wall panned, just as I'd arranged. I watched their silhouettes framed by moonlight. Her hand touched his arm. His voice lowered. The watch listened. The sound of their betrayal filled its memory. Her tone was sharp, precise. The board's nervous about the valuation. His reply came smooth and confident. Let them worry. They don't know about the second agreement. There it was. The confession. The proof. Every word wrapped in arrogance and deceit. Every word saved. I lifted my glass again, pretending to toast across the room. In my clutch, my phone vibrated once. Recording complete. Transmission secure. I excused myself, claiming to check on the band. In the quiet hallway, I opened my phone. The file glowed on the screen, small and powerful. I typed one address. board@cartertech.com. No subject. No message. Only the file. Send. The progress bar filled, blue and steady. 3 minutes later, it was done. I slipped the phone back into my clutch. The ballroom's laughter swelled again. I returned to the dance floor, calm and smiling. The music rose, the chandeliers glittered, and somewhere behind the polished walls, the countdown to Noah's destruction had already begun. The ballroom glowed with perfect joy. The band played a love song that meant nothing to me. Guests laughed, unaware the air was about to change. Noah's phone buzzed once on the table. Then again. And again. He ignored it at first, smiling too wide. Then the vibration became constant. Names flashed on the dark screen. Board members. Investors. His lawyer. He pressed his palm over the phone, trying to hide the panic. But his eyes gave him away. They darted across the room toward the executives' table. They weren't laughing anymore. They were reading. Their faces turned to stone. One by one, they lifted their heads to look at him. Eva saw it too. Her posture stiffened. Her smile cracked like glass. She leaned close to Noah, whispering urgently. He shook his head, pretending control. He had none. Within minutes, the illusion collapsed. The band kept playing, but the melody sounded distant. Whispers spread through the room like smoke. Something unseen but unstoppable. I stood near the edge of the dance floor, a flute of champagne in hand. My heart was steady. I raised my glass toward my sister and her new husband. They were glowing, untouched by the storm. Behind them, Noah was unraveling. Eva pulled him by the arm toward the hallway. The camera followed just as planned. Guests turned, curious. Voices softened. The doors swung closed behind them. Through the archway, I could see their shadows. His movements frantic, hers sharp and furious. Then her voice sliced through the music. "You set me up." The words echoed through the marble corridor. Silence swept the ballroom. Even the band stopped. Heads turned. I placed my glass on the nearest table and walked toward the sound. Each step slow, deliberate, graceful. The crowd parted as I approached. The camera light blinked red, capturing everything. Noah stood frozen, his face pale and sweating. Eva's eyes burned with betrayal. Guests whispered behind their hands. I stopped a few feet away, my tone gentle, calm. "Is everything all right, love?" He couldn't speak. He stared at me like a man who finally saw the trap. Eva's expression changed. Understanding dawned like a wound. She realized she was just another pawn. Without a word, she turned and walked away. The sound of her heels echoed like a retreat. I remained still. Noah's lips moved, but no sound came out. He looked around the hall, at the faces watching, the camera pointed straight at him. I tilted my head slightly. "Perfect timing," I whispered. The words barely audible, but enough for him to hear. Somewhere beyond the walls, his empire was already burning. Inside the ballroom, the guests began to murmur again. And I smiled, softly, sweetly, like a woman whose night had gone exactly as planned. Morning arrived with headlines. The news spread faster than fire. Cartertech CEO accused of fraud. Secret recording leaked from family wedding. They called it the wedding leak. The story was everywhere before sunrise. Noah's empire collapsed before his coffee could cool. Board members demanded answers. Investors froze accounts. Lawyers circled like vultures. He was suspended before noon. Eva's firm was terminated within hours. Her statement to the press sounded desperate. She claimed innocence. The board released her emails. Her career ended in a single afternoon. I watched it all from my terrace. The vineyards shimmered under calm sunlight. My phone buzzed with messages I ignored. Friends asking questions. Journalists begging for comment. I said nothing. Silence was cleaner than confession. By midday, I met with my attorney. He confirmed the transactions were complete. My shares sold before the collapse. Every account secure. Every asset protected. I wasn't just free. I was untouchable. At 4 p.m., I opened my social app. I uploaded one photo. A champagne flute glistening under the setting sun. Caption, "Truth is expensive." No names. No hashtags. The post went viral within hours. The public turned it into a statement. A symbol. They called me powerful. They called me dangerous. I called it peace. That evening, Noah came home. His car rolled across the gravel, like a ghost returning to the grave. He looked smaller, his suit wrinkled, his eyes hollow. He stood in the doorway, staring at the half-empty house. "You destroyed me," he whispered. I turned, holding a glass of water. "No," I said. You destroyed yourself the moment you underestimated me. He tried to reason, to apologize, to negotiate. It was always his language, control through persuasion. But I was done translating pain into patience. You thought betrayal was strategy, I told him. You thought I'd never move first. He said it wasn't personal, that it was business, that he never meant to hurt me. I almost laughed. Exactly, I said. You never meant anything personal, that's why you lost. He looked around at the empty walls. The art gone. The furniture packed. The silence heavy. For the first time, he saw the truth. The empire he built had no foundation. It was made of image. An image burns fast. I glanced at the clock on my wrist. Time had always been his currency. Now it belonged to me. Time's up, I said quietly. Then I walked past him, leaving him standing in his own ruin. A week later, a journalist found me in a cafe. She asked if I leaked the recording. I smiled. No comment, I said and sipped my coffee. She looked disappointed. I looked free. Outside, the sun rose over a clean horizon. A new beginning, built from the ashes of control. And this time, the story was entirely mine. Months passed like quiet victories. The scandal faded, but my name remained. People whispered about me with admiration and fear. They called me the woman who ended a dynasty. I called it balance restored. My new firm, Verity Consulting, grew faster than I imagined. Clients wanted truth wrapped in precision. I gave them both. Every meeting felt lighter, without deceit in the air. I no longer wore diamonds, only clarity. One morning, I stood on the balcony above the vineyards. The world below looked peaceful again. I thought of Noah, somewhere far, reduced to silence. He built his fortune on manipulation. I rebuilt mine on consequence. Sometimes justice doesn't need courts. It only needs patience and timing. The past no longer hurt, it only taught. Revenge had never been the goal. Freedom was. I finished my coffee, set the cup down, and smiled. The story was over. And for the first time in years, I didn't need an audience to feel alive.